The click of the car locks echoed louder than it should have. Sarah's hand was already on the button before her brain caught up, before she could stop the reflex that came from somewhere she didn't want to examine. Through the window, she watched him freeze mid-stride, a black man in grease-stained coveralls, tool belt jangling, running toward her car in the grocery store parking lot. His face shifted. Not angry. Worse, disappointed. That's when she saw it. The smoke curling from under her hood, thin and gray and definitely not supposed to be there. And the look in his eyes that said he'd seen this reaction 1,000 times before. It had been the kind of morning that demanded wine by noon. Sarah's daughter had missed the school bus, her boss had scheduled a last-minute Friday meeting, and somewhere between the office and the Safeway on Miller Road, her check engine light had started blinking like a distress signal. She ignored it. She was good at ignoring things that required money she didn't have. Single mom budget meant the car could wait another week, maybe 2. She pulled into the grocery store lot with a mental list already spiraling: pasta, bread, something green so she could pretend they ate vegetables. The store sat next to Jerry's Auto Repair, one of those family-owned places with faded paint and a handwritten sign promising honest work, fair prices. She'd driven past it 100 times and never once pulled in. Today, she wished she had. She was halfway across the parking lot, cart squeaking, bags cutting into her palms, when she heard the footsteps. Fast, purposeful. The kind of sound that makes your shoulders tense before you turn around. When she did, she saw him, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing coveralls with Jerry's Auto stitched across the chest and Marcus on the pocket. He was jogging toward her, one hand raised like he was trying to get her attention, the other holding what looked like a wrench. Every news story she'd half listened to while folding laundry flooded back. Every warning her mother had ever given about parking lots and strangers. Her rational brain knew it was wrong, knew it was unfair, but her hand hit the lock button anyway. The sound was unmistakable. So was the way he stopped, 5 feet from her door, and let his hand drop. For a moment they just stared at each other through the glass. His expression wasn't what she expected. No anger, no threat, just a quiet, bone-deep weariness that made her stomach twist with shame. Then he pointed deliberately toward the front of her car. "Your hood," he called out, voice raised but not aggressive. "It's smoking." Sarah's eyes followed his gesture. Sure enough, a thin ribbon of gray smoke was seeping from the seam of her hood, barely visible in the afternoon sun, but definitely there. Her heart, which had been hammering for all the wrong reasons, kicked up again for a new one. She cracked the window just an inch. "It's smoking." "Yes, ma'am." He took a step back, giving her space she hadn't asked for but apparently needed. "I was doing an oil change in the bay and saw you pull in. Noticed it when you got out. Looks like a coolant leak, maybe a busted hose. You keep driving, that engine's going to overheat, could seize up completely." Sarah's hands were still gripping the steering wheel like it might save her. From what, she wasn't sure anymore. "I just drove 15 minutes, it was fine." "Sometimes they go fast." He glanced back toward the shop, then at her, then at the smoke. "Look, I know you don't know me, but I've been a mechanic for 12 years. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just telling you you don't want to drive that car right now." The smoke was getting thicker. She could smell it now, acrid and chemical, even through the closed windows. Her daughter's face flashed in her mind. Lily, age 7, gap-toothed and trusting, waiting at after-school care until 5:30. Sarah had exactly 45 minutes to pick her up before they started charging late fees she couldn't afford. "I have to get my daughter," she said, adding how her voice shook. "I don't have time for this." Marcus's expression softened. "Where's she at?" "Bright Horizons, across town." He checked his watch, then looked at the smoke again. Something in his jaw tightened, like he was making a decision that cost him something. "Okay, here. What we're going to do, pop the hood. Let me take a look. If it's something quick, I'll patch it enough to get you there and back. If it's not, I'll drive you myself. My shift ends in 10 minutes anyway." Every instinct she'd locked her doors against screamed that this was how horror stories started. Strange man. Empty corner of the parking lot. Offer of help that came with strings attached. But the smoke was billowing now, and her phone showed 4:47, and Lily's teacher had that pinched look she got when parents were late. Sarah unlocked the door. Marcus waited until she stepped out before he moved, keeping that same careful distance. He walked to the front of the car, motioning for her to pull the hood release. When it popped, he lifted it slowly, and a cloud of steam hissed out. He waved it away, leaning in with a flashlight he'd pulled from his belt. "Yeah, it's the lower radiator hose, split clean through." He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. I can replace it, but it'll take 45 minutes, maybe an hour. You won't make it in time. Sarah's chest tightened. I don't have anyone else to call. He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw him weighing something, probably whether she was worth the trouble, whether she deserved his kindness after the way she'd looked at him. Then he sighed. Come on, my truck, around back. I'll get you there. You don't have to. I know I don't. His voice was gentle but firm. But your daughter needs you and I've got working brakes. Let's go. She followed him across the parking lot, past the garage bays where another mechanic was closing up, toward a blue Ford pickup that had seen better decades. It was clean inside, though. No fast food wrappers, no suspicious stains, just a jacket on the passenger seat that he moved to the back. He held the door for her, waited until she was buckled, then walked around to the driver's side. The engine hummed to life, and they pulled out onto Miller Road in silence. Sarah stared at her hands, at the wedding ring she'd stopped wearing 2 years ago but still carried in her purse like a talisman. She didn't know how to fill the quiet, didn't know how to apologize for the thing they both knew had happened but neither had named. Marcus turned on the radio, soft jazz, the kind her dad used to play on Sunday mornings, and drove. He didn't ask her to explain herself, didn't make her feel smaller than she already did. Just drove, checking his mirrors, signaling his turns, humming along to a trumpet solo like this was the most normal thing in the world. I'm sorry, she finally said. The words felt inadequate and huge at the same time. He glanced at her, then back at the road. For what? You know for what. He was quiet for a beat, too. Then, yeah, I do. He merged onto the highway, hands easy on the wheel. Happens more than you'd think. I stopped taking it personally around year 3. That doesn't make it okay. No, he agreed. It doesn't, but I also get it. You're alone, you're a mom. The world tells you to be scared. I can't fix that in one afternoon. He shifted lanes. All I can do is show up different, hope it sticks. Sarah felt something crack open in her chest. Why are you helping me? Marcus smiled, small and sad. Because somebody helped my mom once. She was stranded with 2 kids and no money, and a stranger stopped, changed everything. He looked at her. Besides, your daughter's waiting. That matters more than my feelings. They pulled into the Bright Horizons parking lot at 5:22. Sarah could see Lily through the window, drawing at a table, her backpack already on. When she saw Sarah, her whole face lit up. Marcus put the truck in park but left the engine running. Thank you, Sarah whispered. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. You're welcome. He handed her a business card, grease smudged at the corner. Bring your car by tomorrow. I'll fix that hose. First hour of labor's free. She took the card, their fingers brushed. Why? Because I think you'll pay it forward someday. He nodded toward the building. Go get your girl. Sarah brought the car in Saturday morning. Marcus replaced the hose, checked her belts, topped off her fluids, and charged her $40. Half what it should have cost, and they both knew it. Lily sat in the waiting room, coloring in a book Marcus had pulled from somewhere in the back, asking him 100 questions about engines and wrenches and whether he'd ever fixed a race car. Not yet, he told her, dead serious. But if I do, you'll be the first to know. Over the next month, Sarah found reasons to stop by, an oil change she actually needed. A weird noise that turned out to be a pebble in the hubcap. Coffee she'd picked up from the shop next door because she'd accidentally ordered 2. Marcus never mentioned the parking lot, never made her explain or grovel or perform her growth. He just showed up, steady, kind, competent, until the fear she'd carried started to feel like something she could put down. One afternoon, Lily asked if Marcus could come to her school's career day. Please, Mom, he's so cool, and he knows everything about cars. Sarah texted him that night, half expecting him to decline. He responded in 3 minutes, I'd be honored. What time? She watched him at the career day, crouched down at kid height, letting a classroom of second graders take turns holding his wrench, explaining how engines work with a patience that made her throat tight. Afterward, walking to the parking lot, Lily between them chattering about pistons, Sarah realized something had shifted. The fear was gone. In its place was something quieter, something that felt like trust, maybe even the beginning of something more. Thank you, she said again. They were standing by his truck, Lily already buckled in Sarah's car, waving through the window. Marcus leaned against the tailgate. You've thanked me about 30 times now. I know, she stopped, started again. You didn't have to keep showing up. Neither did you, he pointed out, but here we are. Here they were, a parking lot in spring, the sun warm on their shoulders, the world still complicated and unfair, but somehow smaller than it had felt that day in September. Sarah smiled. "Can I buy you dinner to say thank you?" Again. Marcus grinned. "Only if you stop apologizing." "Deal." They didn't solve anything that day. Didn't erase the world that had taught her to lock her doors or the 100 moments that had taught him to expect it. But they built something anyway, slowly, carefully, one conversation, one oil change, one shared meal at a time. And maybe that was the point, not to fix everything, just to show up, keep showing up, until fear turned into something softer, something that looked a lot like hope. Sometimes the people we're most afraid of are the ones who save us. And sometimes trust starts with a choice to unlock the door. Have you ever misjudged someone who ended up changing your perspective? Tell us your story in the comments.